Good evening, everyone. Time for another member update. This is the gold weekly chart overlaid over the Dow 30 industrials. Now, you remember yesterday we had a big sell-off. We had a equally large rally today in the Dow with a easing of tensions with the Crimean and Ukrainian situation that we covered in the last update. But obviously, we're getting a rally now. Gold is not really selling off too much, but the stock market rallied significantly. We've been watching this divergence. It's much larger on the daily. You can see we started to have what I had predicted was a decline in the Dow, a rise in gold. Now it seems that the two are rising together. Are we going to get that sort of thing moving forward? Possibly, if we get a lot of money printing. Now we know that the Congress and the Treasury and all the rest of them have pretty much put off any type of budget battles. As I covered in other updates, the debt ceiling is no longer a debt ceiling. It's a debt ceiling date. In other words, they raise the debt ceiling to infinity for a period of time, and then they renew that. So we no longer have a numerical ceiling, we just have a time ceiling. That's a big difference. The Congress and the President have all decided that they're just going to print as much money as they need to keep things going, and that very well may result in a rally of both of these together, and perhaps gold is going to catch up with the paper assets. We know that in an inflation or hyperinflationary environment, stocks go straight up even though the currency they're denominated in is going down. It's a wash in the long run, if not a loss. But that's what happens when governments print money. Now let's take a quick look over at the currencies here, because we want to look at currency crosses for the... First of all, we want to take a look at the Chinese currency, because we have had this unprecedented change in direction, which I had done a chart earlier on suspecting that this was not going to be a long-term trend change. I'm still staying with that call, although I'm a little bit less positive on that. You can see this seems to be a significant trend change in the Chinese currency. This is the dollar gaining value against the Chinese currency. Now, we had immediate reaction saying that the Chinese were manipulating their currency. Of course, if you look at the long-term trend here, the Chinese currency has been gaining value against the dollar for a very long time, and it's interesting that they make those accusations about currency manipulation. But let's go over and look at the Russian ruble, because that has been right at the edge of a key breakout line that it has actually been approaching for quite some time before this crisis, and you can see that point right here. Since the financial crisis, right there, you can see the bottom at about August of 2008. So right at the beginning of the financial crisis, you can see the Russian currency lost from 23 all the way to 36. So we're talking about a 50% loss in value. And we're back up to that point. You can see with the crisis we spiked above it, and now we're falling back. As to why the Russian currency would have lost so much value during the financial crisis, my best guess analysis is something like that the Russian economy is primarily a resource-based economy, and a worldwide slowdown would drastically impact the price of oil and other commodities, and therefore that would be a huge hit to the Russian currency. If that's the case, then this current rally in the price of the dollar versus the ruble would indicate that there is something similar going forward that's going to be coming up here. Now let's jump over and look at the Ukrainian currency. I covered that before with the key dates and how they line up. You can see It's at about 9.9, so it had bounced back down to about 9.6, and you can see that it has, I have to get these lines off of here. You can see that it has started to lose ground again, and we know that the U.S. just pledged $1 billion aid. Of course, we know that Putin had pledged roughly $15 billion, and there are talks of the IMF coming in and matching that $15 billion. So we'll have to see. We know that they're under capital controls, and the latest that I heard was that the most you could withdraw was $100. So very serious economic consequences going on in the Ukraine. Now let's get over to the main story of the night. It's going to be this Tulving story, and this is the main site that broke the story or is breaking the story. So I'm going to try to read most of what you have here and then go back to the older page. This is from about.ag. The Tulving Company is out of business, March 3rd, 2014. As we requested on Friday, the Tulving Company has gone out of business as of Monday morning. They are no longer answering their phones, and we have confirmed that they have ceased operations. Many people are in denial about this. Unfortunately, it is true. Their website won't be shut down until they think to do so or it expires. Their phones will, after a certain number of rings, go to the default email us to place an order message, but there is no way to place an order. They're dismantling the company. This page will be updated as more information comes in. There's a lot of information on our old Tulving page. We hope to update this page with information about what will happen next. At this point, our best guess is that the Tulving Company will file for bankruptcy. Unfortunately, we believe that there will be little in the way of available assets with which to compensate those whose orders were not fulfilled. If you're looking to get important updates, you can sign up for the mailing list. If you have unfulfilled orders, I would recommend checking this page frequently for updates. You may want to check this page occasionally to see if the Tulving Company files for bankruptcy, and if so, to verify that doing so would not affect you. Here's the bad news. Preference is a bankruptcy term for when an insolvent company, one that is about to go bankrupt, sends money or goods to a debtor, which includes customers. That can later be taken back by the bankruptcy court. The idea is that a company about to go bankrupt might give money to their friends, favorite customers, etc. So the laws allow a bankruptcy trustee to go back up to 90 days before bankruptcy is filed, 1 year for insiders if you were in a position to influence and take back payments, which include metal, which would be split equitably amongst all investors. Now, we saw that with the clawbacks that occurred with the Madoff bankruptcy. If you sent the Tulving Company metal and received a check within 90 days before bankruptcy is filed, there is a very good chance that it will be considered a preferential payment and you will be required to return the money. If you sent the Tulving Company cash and received metal within 90 days before the bankruptcy is filed, there's a chance that it will be considered a preferential payment and you will be required to return the metal. We've been told by an attorney that it's rare for trustees to request a return of products during a bankruptcy. However, it is more common if there is fraud involved, which may be considered the case here, and may be more common for goods that are easily returned that keep their value as well, as the case is here. March 4th, we will update this page immediately if we hear that the Tulving Company has declared bankruptcy. If the Tulving Company does not plan to declare bankruptcy, it seems like any three creditors' customers could declare an involuntary bankruptcy. There are restrictions for this, but they are likely met here. It sounds like involuntary bankruptcy is not commonly used, but fraud and or Ponzi schemes are typical reasons to force a company into involuntary bankruptcy. However, it appears that involuntary bankruptcy is unusual unless the company has significant assets. From the looks of things, Tulving Company has minimal assets. However, there remains a chance that there are significant assets. Now, let's go look at the old page here because there's some speculation information here I want you to see. March 3rd, 2014, understanding the $47.5 million Tulving problem. I believe that the Tulving company lost a lot of money over a period of time, most in April 2013 when the metals prices plummeted 20% in a matter of days, probably on COMEX. I calculate the loss to be $47.5 million. Of course, you remember that day. That was the day of the April Boston bombing takedown. You can see that right here. Huge move in the price of gold. About $200 or so. And there was also a massive move in silver. You can see that all the way from $28 down to $22. An enormous percentage move in the prices. If this is the case, he has nearly $0 in the bank and $47.5 million of outstanding orders. The only way to stay in business having lost so much money is to delay orders. Now, for those of you who are Bitcoin people, you know the speculation is that that was what Mt. Gox was doing before they declared bankruptcy, and a sort of similar pattern of behavior that you saw over there. If you have 1,000 outstanding orders and one new order comes in, you can use the money from that new order to ship out one of the outstanding orders instead of shipping the new order. The problem with this, of course, is that you still have 1,000 outstanding orders and are in no better shape. That new order cannot be fulfilled until 1,000 new orders come in, at which point a different 1,000 orders will be outstanding. Tulving was getting roughly $30 million a month in orders before this started, meaning that with $47.5 million lost, he would have to delay orders about 6 weeks. But business declined as word got out about the delay, so he's now doing much less business, probably around $6 million a month. At $6 million a month of incoming money and $47.5 million backlog of orders, it would take almost 8 months to deliver them without being able to deliver the new orders. If anyone can come up with an explanation as to what is happening with the Tulving company that does not involve them having lost roughly $47.5 million of customer money, please tell us. March 2nd, why Tulving is ignoring the BBB-BCA. I finally figured out why Tulving is not responding to the BBB-BCA anymore. Over the past few months, as he has approached the tipping point, he has had to push out promised ship dates farther and farther. The problem is that recently his promised shipping dates have hit 28 to 29 days after the complaint was filed. 28 days is the number that a California bullion dealer has to ship per California commodity law. And the FTC requires shipment within 30 days unless another time is given before the order. So if Tulving responds to these complaints with a promised shipping date of, say, 35 days, then he is proving in what he writes that he is unable to fulfill even the most urgent of orders within the time frame required by law. So it sounds like Tulving has three choices. 1, ignore the complaint. 2, prove conclusively that he is violating the law, or lie and later get caught lying. So you can read the rest. I'm going to link this. Apparently this has been going on for quite some time. And that's very interesting. Now, just to substantiate the things that are in here, you can go to a link here that this is the Business Consumer Alliance, the BCA. If you go up to the About link here and the mission statement, you can see this is basically the Better Business Bureau, and they take complaints. Now you can see the date on these complaints. It is the 4th of March. You can see the date is the 4th of March. Here we go. Here, let's look at some complaints. Tulving Company. Amount in dispute, $78,000. I have not received shipment on 60 gold coins on a transaction that began when I shipped 2 kilo bars worth $78,000 to Tulving on January 15th, 2014. Resolution sought, immediate shipment of 60 gold coins, etc. And he goes into the details. You'll have to read it yourself. Next one. Let's look at this one here. Again, from the 4th. $25,000, a roll of gold eagles. Summary: bought 20 gold eagle coins on January 30th, promised 3-day delivery, and after calling 4 times and emailing 5 times, I still don't have a delivery date. I need to get the coins. Detail, etc. You can read that. Here's 80 Canadian maple leaf 1 ounce gold. Again, date the 4th. Today, amount in dispute $54,000. Ordered 80 2013 Canadian maple leaf 1 ounce gold coins. Received only 40 coins to date. What is owed? $54,000. There's the... Now note, company response. There are no responses to these complaints here. This is the official Better Business Bureau site. So you can see here, the 4th, this whole first page is the 4th. Go to the second page. Second page is all the 4th. That's today. 60 gold coins. 20 gold coins. 80 gold coins. Next page. These are some of the same people repeating it. Here's a new one here. Here's 20 gold coins. So it seems that a lot of these complaints are actually the same people complaining multiple times. There's some silver eagles in there. So really it looks like primarily 3 of these, the 20, the 80, and the 60 gold coins. Those are the main ones that are there. So this somewhat substantiates the summary here over at About AG. So apparently Tulving is no longer answering the phone. Now the speculation here is that Tulving lost a lot of money in this smackdown that occurred last spring. Now that's the main thing that I want to talk to you about, and I think that this issue goes much, much deeper. We need to think about this. Now I have a relationship with a few of my local coin dealers. These are gentlemen who run businesses locally in my town. I make an effort to go there fairly frequently and talk to them about the business. When I initially met the first gentleman that I've done business with for a number of years, I talked to him about my projection. I believe at that time silver was $8 an ounce. I talked to him about my projections. I actually bought a bunch of eagles around that cost, and I mentioned to him that when silver's over $20, I'll sell them back to him. He had a good laugh at that. He thought, well, that's real interesting. You think that it's going that high? And he made a statement that really made me stop and pause and think for a bit. He said, I really don't care where the price goes because it doesn't matter to me what the price is. All that matters is that I get a proper buy and sell spread. So his perspective was that it doesn't have anything to do with whether the price is going up or down. It has to do with his ability to sell what he has and then replace it and make a profit. Now that's what you're going to find when you're talking about these dealers, because they are in the business of moving product and they're trying to make a profit. So that's what brings us to this very interesting issue of MF Global. Now, I've covered MF Global before. You remember that MF Global was the biggest futures broker at that time, and the bankruptcy was very controversial because you can see here on October 31st, 2011, the executives admitted that they had transferred $700 million from customer accounts Now, I'm not going to go through all the details here, but we know that JP Morgan was given preference. We know that the judge went against long-standing contract law and sided with the creditors rather than the customer funds, even though the customer funds had been illegally taken. If you remember, at that time, that was when Ann Barnhart announced that she was leaving the commodity broker. She was actually I forgot the term. It's like a friendship. Basically, introducing broker. She was an introducing broker. So she was dealing with cattlemen, and then she was helping them hedge their product as an introducing broker. That's when she announced that she was leaving the business. So this MF Global bankruptcy, I did a couple of videos at the time talking about how important this is. You have to understand this in terms of the ability of people who deal in commodities to hedge. Because, as I said, talking to my local coin dealer, he expressed to me the point that he doesn't really care where the price is going. Now, the reason he can say that is because he's hedged. There are many different ways to hedge, but when you're talking about a large gold and silver dealer, you're really talking about futures. You're going to have to hedge through futures and options. That means that you're going to have a paper derivatives contract that is roughly equivalent to your potential losses of your inventory that you have in stock. Now, the question is, with the Tulving company, was the Tulving company hedging their physical inventory with a paper hedge? My guess is, since the statement here by About AG that the big loss occurred around the April takedown, that since that was roughly a couple of years after MF Global, there's a high possibility that Tulving was not hedging using the paper futures. And if that's the case, that means a naked loss. So what does this mean? Well, this means what I speculated at the beginning of the MF Global takedown, was that, in my opinion, that this was a intentional effort done by the cabal, and the purpose behind it was to cripple the physical market for gold and silver. The way that this would cripple the physical market for gold and silver is that using the volatility in the paper futures market, and then by making the ability to hedge unreliable, they have made it so that people who are in the business of selling physical gold and silver are literally risking bankruptcy by being in that business. In other words, it's a way of driving them out of business. And that makes perfect sense if you understand that the purpose of these Illuminati banksters is to prevent individuals such as you and myself from hedging themselves, protecting themselves, fighting against the banksters by stacking physical gold and silver. If they're able to destroy the paper hedging operations that the physical sellers must use to protect themselves, then in effect they are able to drive those physical sellers into bankruptcy through a combination of making the paper hedging unreliable and forcing massive volatility. That appears that is what happened with the Tulving takedown. And we'll talk to you next time.